I am here with Jake, and Jake is. There's a lot of stuff to list off for you. You're a songwriter, you're a musician. I know you play multiple instruments, you produce a lot of stuff, and you're one of the driving forces behind the band Autumn Kings. So, how's it going, man? How are you doing today?
Been crazy last couple of years, but we're getting back on track. Shows are getting back, world's returning back to normal, and band is more enthusiastic than ever before about the future.
And I'm looking forward to that. And we're going to talk about that in the very near future. Let's throw out some social medias first. They're all going to be down in the description or in a pinned comment over there. But I just want to make sure we get them out there. So how do people listen to you guys and you specifically, and how do they say hi?
Well, you can say hi and find us on any of the social medias that you use: Instagram, Autumn Kings Band; Facebook, Autumn Kings Band; Twitter, Autumn Kings Band. Type Autumn King, Google Play, Pandora, whatever it is you use to listen to music. And on the platforms where you can message the band, message us. We try our best to answer as soon as we can. Find us anywhere there, and we'd love to get in touch.
Perfect. And speaking, they do respond very, very quickly. It's great. I love it when bands are interactive because that's the whole point.
hmm
Um, the next up I want to talk about, you've been a musician quite a while, and let's start in with, how did you get into music?
Yeah. So it's really interesting. I started playing the guitar. A year before that, I played the video game Guitar Hero,
Hmm.
and it sounds funny, but that's the game that really kickstarted my love for music on a deep level. I was really good at that game. I was playing songs on expert mode backwards, memorizing the 5 Guitar Hero notes, and eventually, from after school, I got so good that I started wondering to myself, it'd be like if I picked up a real instrument, like a real guitar. So
Hmm.
it was Guitar Hero 3, and it was also the video game Rock Band that specifically turned me on to drums. And a drum kit from his older brother, I started playing on it while the guys are playing hide and seek in video games. I found myself immersed and lost in the love of music and the love of playing the drums and the sound it created. And really from there, it kick-started just where, like, my whole love for music, the journey, and how I got here today. So it all started with the video game Guitar Hero 3 and Rock Band.
And that's interesting because we when we were talking off camera and stuff, I've watched you grow as a musician over the past 7, 8 years. And you look back to those early days, and you can certainly see that heavy rock influence in your early guitaring.
Right. Totally.
So let's talk more about how you've grown as an artist and where your influences are now, and who's really hit you and interested
Yeah.
you.
Canadian bands, the Three Days Grace, the Nickelback, the Crutches, the Sum 41s, Billy Talent. Um, but right around 2017, 2018, Joe started getting uninspired by what was coming out. We found a lot of it just started sounding the same. And the 13-year-old me would think what I'm about to say is blasphemy because I used to just love Metallica and heavy rock. But I started expanding my horizons into pop and EDM and hip hop, realizing that there are some really good moments from those. And though I don't like how programmed and digital those genres are as a whole, what if we can take the best elements of those and bring them back into the Autumn Kings fundamental rock territory that we do really well? And so since about 27 our sort of shift in sound to something that incorporates more than just linear rock.
Hmm. And and those influences and the way the melodies and things come together and join in, I think so many people think that it's easy to, particularly people not in the music industry, think it's so easy to write a pop song, to write an EDM song. It's like you just hit a couple of buttons, you auto tune some things, and there you go. But that's not it. So, talk about your experiences trying to write partially in that
Right.
genre.
Well, I'll tell you. So "Want You to Stay" was really the first song where we dabbled with the EDM and pop influences, and that song took, without exaggeration, 13 months to write. I could sit here and try to be Hercules and say, "Oh, we wrote it in 2 seconds, and the rest is history." But no, it was a real grind. There was nothing mechanical about it, but at the same time, there's a level of crafting the song, and really, it's like solving a Rubik's cube or putting together a puzzle. You need to sort of crack the code a little more. do whatever you want, and there aren't really defined confines, for better or for worse. That allows more creativity, but sometimes you're really going to miss, and your intuition will be off, and it won't connect with fans. Whereas in EDM and pop, it's like
Hmm.
this, but to really nail this within these lines and make it unique and original, that's where the real challenge comes in. So if you hear a Katy Perry hit or Taylor Swift, those songs sound easy, but they're actually really hard to make. To make an earworm that sticks in your head after one listen.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so how did that influence, and how did, particularly for you and Joe, how did that change your writing, not style, but your collaboration and how you make a song? Because we're going to get into something that you guys, a project that you guys had. We'll get into that in a second, but how did it affect your writing?
Yeah.
And
Well, it definitely affected it in the sense that we started thinking about vocal melodies and words and titles before we thought about the guitar and the guitar riffs. When the first album of Autumn Kings just came out, Silver Screens, it was a guitar record, and vocals were almost second to the guitar work. The guitar was the backbone of the song. Everything was written revolving around the guitar riffs. Now we sort of write on an acoustic or a piano, and to like think of the best vocal melodies possible, and the guitar comes second. Now that doesn't mean the guitar is going to be basic or generic or watered down, but it does mean it comes second. And I
Mhm,
think a great example of that is our song Echo, Ready for War, still
mhm,
has a cool fun guitar part, but the chorus was the first part written that song. When I hear the echo coming, I don't stop running, and the rest
mhm,
was built around that. So now it's we think vocals first as opposed to guitar first.
mhm. And that's interesting, particularly coming from the lead guitarist.
Mhm.
How has that felt for you to take, forgive me, take part of your ego and put it in the back seat
Right.
to the crafting the song?
Well, exactly. It's a great question. And with the conventional rock band setup of guitar, bass, vocals, and drums, I think it might be easier for whoever's got those particular positions in the band to have an ego and be jealous, or I don't know, have some sort of resentment if their part isn't in the forefront.
Hmm.
For me, I've never looked at it like it's about me or the guitar. And this is going to sound cliche, like, oh, it's about the camaraderie in the band. But it really is. And guitar is not the only instrument I play. As you mentioned, like I play drums, bass, keyboards. I produce on Pro Tools. So I have uh, a versatile skill set. So I don't feel like it's a slight to my ego or talent whatsoever to have the guitar take the back seat. In fact, there are many moments in songs where our producer will give us a first mix, and I'll say the bass needs to go way up.
Hmm.
You know, it's just not about that to me. You wouldn't even be able to compete in this musical landscape if you got hung up on details like that. So it hasn't been tough for me.
No, and that's cool. And you talk about it, in the sort of egos of the band coming together. You guys have managed to this point, and hopefully continuing forward, sort of sidestep that problem, you know,
Totally.
and you guys have been very, very lucky in coming together.
Sure.
You we don't see it in a lot of bands, and I work with a lot of bands, and I love a lot of bands, but the amount of camaraderie, I think, is the best word for you guys, and I think that allows particularly you and Joe in the songwriting to play even more because you know what you can get away with.
Yes. Totally. I think that's a great observation.
So one of the things I touched on briefly and I want to bring in now is early in, what was it, 2019, you started the project that you were going to produce and release a track a month
Yes.
for 13 months, or was it 12? Either way, you were going to do for a year and a bit, whatever. You were going to release a track of the month. What was running through your head when you came up with that idea?
Well, a few things are running through our head. Not the attention span of has
Hmm.
been weakened. So, you hear a lot of times people saying that this generation has a short attention span. I disagree. I think this generation has a short consideration span. 7 to 10 seconds of listening to music or seeing visual content, if they're going to listen to the rest of it. Once you hook them in, I mean, I've listened to Joe Rogan podcast, no problem. So it's obviously not the attention span that's the issue; it's the consideration. So
Hmm.
like by giving people one single at a time as opposed to giving them a full body of work for them time, rather than giving them a full EP of 5, full album of 10 songs, where ultimately they only listen to 2 or 3 songs. Really,
Hmm.
it was for the sake of the songs being heard to the people who needed to hear it, and none of the important ones being glossed over. So that was definitely the first part of that single a month release strategy. And I think the second part was just to change things up on our end. We'd been abiding by the conventional norms and practices of bands from the past, which was drop an album, the years, put out
Hmm.
another album of 10 or 11 songs. But today's music landscape, that's just not the way it has been.
And that touches into something I was talking about that I've been talking about pretty much consistently with everybody on the who's done the Unbowed stuff. Um, as our music landscape changes, there's as much as mainstream media and sort of the legacy record companies would like to tell you, it's not the way people are consuming media, consuming music is changing and adapting.
Yeah.
And do you think that, or how to put it, that constant ability to keep something in the public eye, and how important is that, and should artists who are thinking about getting into it now, think about it, you guys are now the established artists, uh, should they be how should they be thinking about that, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally understand the question. There's no right or wrong answer, and this is something we debate often. Is it, do you need to keep releasing a song a month in order to stay relevant in the public eye? Because if you only dropped one album and then waited a year, does it appear to fans and users that you have just been absent and for all intents and purposes don't exist out there in the ether? I might be called an idealist from this thought, but I do believe that if your music is fantastic, then you can still afford to wait and have time transcended, I mean, genre boundaries, and it took over the world with streaming. Is it perhaps a different set of rules for them because they're already in a? I think if you've got a rock solid foundation, you're going to be okay. Because here's the thing: there are people who are only famous on TikTok or people who are only famous on Instagram. I think if you're only famous or known on one platform, when that platform collapses, your whole sort of career and foundation might collapse. Where for Autumn Kings, we never looked at getting particular eggs in that one basket.
I think you just hit one of the major nails on the head. And I think as much as I'm an advocate that things are changing and you need to be in the media, the new media landscape, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all these sort of things. Particularly looking at TikTok and YouTube as sort of the biggest ones outside of like for video content and things like that. Um, how many times do you hear a TikToker or a YouTuber talking about the fact that their channel was taken down, they got a strike and nothing theirs? So absolutely, you can't just bank on one thing. It's got to
Right.
be plural, a plurality.
Absolutely.
So moving that a little bit forward, you guys were hitting your stride with this release a month, release a track a month, and then the pandemic hit.
Yes.
And let's talk about, first off, how are you doing? How did you survive? You doing okay?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, it's been tough,
But
no question.
and let's talk about that. How did you handle it? What was it like for you to
Um,
go from being in full swing to?
mhm. It was really tough. I can't lie about that. It was really tough. Your whole world has changed. So when you have this one expectation of success and the way things are going to go, and then you get hit with a pandemic like nothing we've seen really in our lifetimes,
Mhm.
it's definitely your head gets cloudy for sure. And we're still coming out of that phase where right now we're just transitioning to getting back to normal, which is great. Like I'm super optimistic about the future. Um,
Mhm.
but definitely in the beginning it was challenging and lonely in the basement, but you sort
Mhm.
of like all I did was just double down on writing music. I started finding, I mean, for myself, I found other avenues to write music and make money, like in film and TV, writing for TV shows and doing things like that. I sort of shifted course a little bit because all of the
Mhm.
band's touring and shows were canceled for the foreseeable future. So it was tough, but God, I'm glad we're getting out of it now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so what is yours and the band's trajectory from this point? Are you still in the sort of feeling it out stage?
Hmm. Yeah, we're sort of feeling it out. We've got 5 shows coming up in May across the USA, which is going to be cool. We're going to be rehearsing in a few weeks for the first time in over 2 years, which is crazy.
Hmm.
And the band is still on. We've been writing stems, just really emotionally impactful. It's a concept album, so from top to bottom, there's a unifying lyrical meaning and sound and style, and certain words and lyrics mentioned in song A, you'll also hear in song D and song E. So it's really going to be an immersive experience for fans like no other. It's not just a bunch of songs that are put together, that making the best music we can and just taking it day by day really is all you can do right now.
Yeah, exactly. And just sort of playing things by ear. I'm so excited now because I am a huge fan of concept albums. So most of my favorite, like all time top albums, have been pure concept albums. So I'm very, very curious to hear this now, and I'm looking forward to it. Um, I guess where we can sort of head it off here, and I think this is a good place to sort of capstone it off, is do you think it should be said about moving into the future? And we all want things to get back to normal, but I don't think that like how people's media consumptions have changed and how the industry is changing and performances and those aren't going to get back to normal for a while. What do you think the message and the ideal going forward from there is?
As far as for creators and musicians,
Exactly. And you guys.
yeah. Well, I think all you can really control at the end of the day is creating more music and making it as good as you can make it. Thankfully, we have the internet, which is a great tool. You can put the music out. It can still get heard. I mean, maybe the live concerts aren't going to be back to perfectly normal. However, I will say that in the States, they are, it is largely getting back to normal. There's still a small fraction of people who are a little reserved to go out, but it's picking up there, and I think Canada will catch up maybe a little bit later than the States, but it will. But in the meantime, live shows aside, everyone's on the internet, right? I
Hmm.
think if you record great videos, record great music, put it out there and promote it with the right advertising, I think you can still make progress. Maybe it's not going to feel like your dream progress because you're not touring, but I think you have to just keep pushing through and not lose. That music's still going to live there forever. It's going to be there 3 or 4 years from now. Things are completely back to normal and nobody's even going to talk about COVID anymore. So I would just say keep writing and keep putting it out. That's all you can really control.
That is a perfect way to end this interview, and such a great sentiment. I again, I've been a fan for a long time. I really want to chat with you guys again, and maybe the whole band will work that out. But I want to thank you for doing this, and we here at Unbowed absolutely love what you guys are doing, and we're going to support you in any way we can. So when those music, when the new tracks come out, when you're doing the tour dates, let us know. We will get it out to as many people as we can. Um, so from that, I'm gonna say, thank you to Jake, and we will see you guys in the next interview.
Awesome.
Be
That sounds great. Thank you so much for your time, David.
Thank you for joining us here at Unbowed. Remember to smash that subscribe button, like the video, and give us a comment. We upload videos 3 times a week. This is interviews and footage from our concerts. If you like what we're doing here at Unbowed, please consider becoming a subscriber. This helps us produce more concerts, support the community, and shine spotlights on independent artists. Subscribers gain access to our full and unedited videos, full concert videos, and our Discord server, where a number of the artists that we work with hang out and chat.